Hello again. Welcome back to the Movie Buff Reactions channel. We're continuing the fresh reactions to the Nostalgia Critics Lord of the Rings month. Last time we did Fellowship of the Ring, which was a very fun review. I liked how he dug into it. He was very positive, but still gave the appropriate personal criticisms. Not sure it'll merit any unhinged reactions from Tolkien hardcore fans, but we'll just have to wait and see. And today we're doing The Two Towers, which personally I think is my favorite of the Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings trilogy. I know Return of the King is epic on all levels, but The Two Towers I think might be the most epic, the most watchable on certain levels, just because of the scale and choreography, and also just had the least annoying moments from certain characters, and really brought to life things that folks had never seen before. And I wish I had more to say going in, but I'm just really excited to get into watching this. Got my Santa Christ t-shirt. I don't know if he'll appear in this review as well. He did this opening sketch of the Fellowship review, so we'll wait and see. And without further ado, let's watch this fucking thing.
This episode brought to you by Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit. Check us out at Midwest Gaming Classic April 4th through 6th in Milwaukee,
It's either
Wisconsin.
Factor or
And
DoorDash.
check us out at C2E2 April 11th to the 13th in Chicago, Illinois. Hope to see you there. Hello, I'm the Nostalgia Guy. Remember it so you don't have to. When Fellowship of the Ring came out, a lot of people I know said, yeah, that was a good movie. And then 1 year later when Two Towers came out, everyone I know said, yeah, that was a good movie. Where I described Fellowship as an impressive film, but ultimately a proof of concept, Two Towers is the flick that said,
Brad
okay,
Dourif.
enough fooling around. Let's make people really give a shit. This is the film that got people going, yeah, I'll check out the next one, to why do I have to wait a whole year for the next one? Am I supposed to get my Gollum fixed, Dobby? Despite splitting up the characters and introducing even more people and conflicts, the grouping of stories actually made the pacing a little better and allowed the audience to really see the impact these situations were having on our leads. There wasn't as big a rush to introduce so many characters and go from place to place. Here, there are only two things you were really supposed to care about. Rohan, the hobbits, and if there's time, maybe a talking tree. And even that you really end up caring about. Like with all the films, though, it isn't perfect. There's still some characters being done wrong, like...
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Stop shitting on Gimli. Why? Why are you doing this? But still, this was a huge step up from the last one, which was already pretty impressive. As before, there's a lot to talk about, so let's jump right in. Let's look at a story about Two Towers that weirdly doesn't have much Two Towers in it. Let's take a look at...
It's a good title.
The film opens with a dream sequence with Frodo remembering what happened to Gandalf. Even though I'm not sure how his
favorite moment in the franchise.
Happened, but who cares? This intro somehow managed to out-badass the previous one.
Still blows me away every time I see it.
Am I crazy, or did they sing Bon Voyage there? That's better than singing. Just a dream. Frodo wakes up, though, and both him and Sam continue their journey to Mordor.
This other stuff, it's not bad. Nothing ever dampens your spirits, does it, Sam?
I can think of something I'd like to get dampened. They realize
there, of course, the gay jokes.
Start to put together, they're being followed.
What's that horrid stink? Can you smell it? Yes, I can smell it.
Sorry, I put a little chipotle on that elven bread. Coached by Gollum, played by Andy Serkis, who half the time looks very CG, but it's still good CG for 2002. And the other half of the time, I swear he's really there. Part of that could be they made a last-minute choice to use the shots where Serkis was standing in because the performances were better with Ashton Wood. And I think doing so helped the animators figure out the lighting and texture better. I mean, think about it. This is over 20 years old, and look at this. That's not a CG head, that is Gollum's head. That's not a CG arm, that is Gollum's arm. He 100% looks like he's there on set.
Really nice.
I agree.
Very nice to us. Very good to us.
At first I was a little concerned about the voice. But maybe the idea was the rope was choking him in this scene. And as the performance goes on, it sounds less like a boo being swallowed by Donald Duck and more like a voice of a person who's been around for several centuries.
I hate you. I hate you.
Using the shots with Serkis also allows more of his performance to shine through. As when you compare him in the first film to the second, you can see they definitely worked in much more.
Yeah, early CGI, not so
This
good.
character won so many people over, they debated whether or not Serkis should get an Oscar nomination, despite him technically never being seen on camera. I don't know, I think a special Oscar for him and the CGI team would have worked, similar to what they do with Disney and his achievement on Snow White. And I guess the MTV Movie Award will have to be enough.
And Peter Jackson, who do you think you are? You don't yourself.
Sorry, keep going over there. It's the best acceptance speech ever. Gollum agrees to show them the way to Mordor while Merry and Pippin are catching a ride on the Uberkai. Thank you. Remember, 2-drink minimum.
Piggyback of hell.
Ooh, half of Kevin Spacey's text. Everyone, Legolas and Gimli followed them through the shots and made everyone at least Google how much a New Zealand vacation is.
Way too much.
They're taking the hobbits to Isengard.
One doesn't have nearly the same mean bait as potatoes, but I'll take it. Saruman's forces started invading several parts of Middle-earth, forcing families to separate.
Take your sister.
Saruman was really upped in this movie.
What the hell did that kid say? This isn't our Tolkien language. Our heroes enter the kingdom of Rohan, where King Theoden, played by Bernard Hill, has clearly never recovered
Great
from
actor.
a Jack could fit on that wooden frame. Carl Urban plays Aeromir, Miranda Otto plays Eowyn, who tell the king his son is seriously injured by Saruman's army, but the king's aide named Grimer Wormtongue, who is also bad in this, tells him this.
How did he ever get a job with a name like that?
Be our friend and ally.
He's played by Brad Dourif, wearing the Play-Doh mask from the Gary Oldman and Danny DeVito villains playset.
How long is it since Saruman bought you? What was the promised price, Screamer?
One day, I'll be a blonde. Grimer banishes Aeromir, but he continues to hunt down and kill Saruman's army, bumping into our heroes crossing into Rohan.
Speak quickly.
Really skipped over that fight.
Master, and I shall give you mine.
Okay, every once in a while Gimli has a cool moment. There's even occasionally a funny moment when it feels less forced.
The trees are speaking to each other. Gimli, know your axe.
I would cut off your head if it stood but a little higher from the ground.
We die before your scroll fell.
I also like Legolas sticks up for him. Like they have a rivalry, but when it really counts,
Good
they
development.
have each other's backs.
Track the party of Uruk-hai westward across the plain.
Aeromir tells him now that they found the Uruk-hai they were chasing and left none alive, so it's unlikely the hobbits are looking for survived.
We piled the carcasses and burned them.
Dead.
I'm sorry.
I'd give you a hug if your head stood but a little lower from the ground.
Yeah, we killed him. No
There,
biggie.
but aren't able to find him.
Swallow that repellents.
Fun fact, Morton Simley. Oh, everybody's talked about the toast story. It became a meme. Well, did you know why kids love the taste of Cinnamon Toast Crunch?
It's a little bit nice to hear it
That's
again.
also a meme. Well, have you seen Bee Movie? Everyone tracks their footsteps, though,
Ah.
realizes they may still be alive.
A hobbit lay here. Their hands were bound. Their bonds were cut.
Yes, they were bound.
Does he have psychic
bound,
powers?
again, and then unbound. Okay, the editing in this is a lot better, but they're still goof-ups.
What madness drove me there?
A flashback shows they were chased into the forest until they discover an unusual creature.
I am an end.
Dual role for Rhys Davies.
Some call me. I stalked many a Ronald McDonald play.
Ugh.
John Rhys Davies also does the voice of Treebeard, which surprisingly isn't that distracting. And he says he has to take him to the White Wizard.
Good fake out.
Admittedly, this is a pretty clever fake out, except for the fact that they put his face on all the advertising and trailers.
Yeah.
See, movies were red hulking it even before Brave New World.
Dead faces in the water.
Elves and men and orcs.
Meanwhile, Sam and Frodo are led through the dead marshes, where the power of the ring is too much for Frodo and he falls into a Scary Stories illustration.
Great horror sequence.
Gollum saves him, which quickly creates an interesting setup, like maybe he's not as evil as we're led to believe, as Frodo and him form a strong bond, both being possessed by the ring. I didn't even notice until this time around that the same time Frodo is petting the ring in his hand, Gollum is doing the same thing despite literally nothing being there. The Black Riders pimped up their ride though and continued to search for them.
I thought they were dead.
No, you cannot kill them, no.
Unless you're a chick through some strange-ass loophole.
Back in the forest, our heroes run into Gandalf back from the dead as he reveals what happened. Except how he fell into a lake and ended up at the top of a mountain, but the books have appendixes for every time a dragon queefs. I'm sure they explain that there too.
This took me.
He says he died but was sent back until his task was done because his BFF seemed to make it work, and he beckons in King Theoden, who is in need of their aid. It's impressive through the backstory and visuals how quickly you care for these people and what they used to be / still could be. The music alone has a quiet yet epic weight that can work either as a dignified funeral or as a triumphant return.
Howard Shore, baby.
Speaking of which, Gandalf tries to return Theoden to his original glory, but the sorcery of Saruman tries to cling on.
I will draw you, Saruman, as poison is drawn from a wound.
Be healed! Hallelujah! Astaria, Christ compels you!
This is a great acted scene.
He leveled up. Wonder if that Bombadil fellow can up my...
Ugh.
Again, in possibly too literal an interpretation, the shadow of
That's an
Saruman
amazing
leads him back
effect.
to his normal self.
I know your face. Susan, right?
He tries to kill Grimer for all that he's done, but Aragorn stops him.
Enough blood has been spilled.
Not a good decision.
Yes, let him give Saruman all our secrets so even more blood can be spilled on his account. But do they not have a prison there?
Where is my son?
After Theoden cries over the death of his son in a really well-written and well-acted moment, the kids from before arrive and tell him about the growing army.
They were unarmed. Now the wild men are moving through the Westfold.
This is but a taste of the terror that Saruman will unleash.
But what does Gimli have to add?
Yeah.
And yet Snow White is the most offensive film to dwarves. Theoden says his kingdom must venture to Helm's Deep where he believes he can protect everybody, as Frodo becomes more occupied with saving Gollum.
I want to help him, Sam. Why? Because I have to believe he can come back.
We have too much in common, our big, weird, freaky eyes for a start. They run across the armies of Dolly. And even though it's in the book, I do think it's smart they kept this little preview of these things. I get the feeling if they just showed up in the third film, people would be like, wait, there's freaking heffalumps in this? They're captured, though, by Boromir's brother, Faramir, played by David Wenham. But who cares? Gimli's being silly again.
I didn't mind this scene.
Can we drop by Willow's house and make a trade? They're attacked suddenly by one of the lamer effects in the movie. These hyena rancors, and our heroes
It depends on the shot.
impossible themselves on their horses and fight. Oh, we now have a smell bad joke from Gimli. 2 more bodily functions and he'll be a Big Mama's House sequel. Aragorn gets caught on one of the wolves, though, just running off a cliff as animals instinctually do. Leave the dead. Well, I'm keeping the jewelry. Meanwhile, after Saruman invents bombs. Not in the book, but kind of cool. It's his army of extraordinary magnitude.
There is no such force.
I've been here for days. How did I miss this? Follow-up question. How'd they see that small-ass wave all the way in the back?
Fair.
They're sent to Helm's Deep, as well. Gandalf wasn't dead, Merry and Pippin weren't dead. I guess Aragorn could be not dead, too.
Hot.
I go back and forth on this, as it doesn't seem to add that much to the story. But I guess it does give him time to not only get back on his feet, but also debate who his heart belongs to, seeing how Éowyn seems to have the hots for him, and Arwen is debating if she should skip her trip to the Grey Havens and stay with him.
Don't let me do.
It's time to look beautifully at things and speak gibberish.
Whether by the sword or the slow decay of time, Aragorn will die.
This scene is amazing. In the first film, I was at best indifferent to Arwen being in it, but this moment showing her life as she strays, all alone after Aragorn eventually dies, is masterfully done.
Reminds me of Highlander a little.
My daughter, you will linger on as nightfall in winter that comes without a star.
It takes the words right out of the appendix of the book and puts it right at the center of her dilemma, creating a beautifully melancholy moment of mourning a life well lived, but not being able to join him due to being immortal. It's hands down my favorite scene in the movie.
Interesting.
Wow, I got every father's wish, giving a speech to his daughter that keeps her away from boys. Go me. Even the appearance of Galadriel feels less like a forced cameo like in a Marvel movie and a good sum up of how urgent things are becoming. Even that painting of man defeating evil now changes perspective to look more like man being overpowered by evil.
Frodo begins to understand. The quest will claim his life.
So says my very vague doublespeak. I won't go into more detail about it. Faramir's story almost works as someone who wants to redeem himself in the eyes of his father and match the glory of his fallen brother, as he plans to do so by getting the ring to his kingdom, which is falling apart.
The ring will go to Gondor.
There's just one problem. We have no idea why he's doing any of this. Like, sure, to save his people, but we just did this with Boromir. How is this any different? How is it not repeating? Well, I feel like every film's extended version has at least one crucial missing scene, and for this film, this is the one. Showing how loved his brother was and how much his father dismissed him. Thinking bringing in the ring and saving the day will earn his father's love.
Ever the ring will seek to corrupt the hearts of lesser men, but you...
There's need to go to Rivendell. Send me in his stead.
I trust this mission only to your brother, the one who will not fail me.
Without this scene, he just looks like a jerk, redoing the exact same arc Boromir went through, just not as interesting. Oh wow.
I didn't need it when I saw the theatrical cut.
He's being a dick to begin with. But this scene really makes us sympathize with what he's doing, especially after he finds out his brother's dead. There are some good moments, though, like Frodo betraying Gollum so he doesn't get killed, yet he still gets beaten horribly.
Yeah.
So pretty much everything with Gollum in this movie is flawless. Except that yell's a little dumb. And I will say,
unsettling.
Death seems warranted just for this one shot alone.
Epic!
That was awesome.
Meanwhile, Treebeard discusses with his fellow Ents if it makes sense for them to go to war against Saruman.
This is the forest of no return.
Aragorn says they need to call Gondor for aid, but Theoden says Gondor knows what it did and refuses. This leads to one of the best build-ups of any battle in any movie.
Yeah, Theoden's a stubborn twat.
Behind the hills. Into shadow.
So much time is dedicated to making it look like this might be their Alamo. This image of a helmet being put on a kid's head is branded into my memory. It's the ultimate, oh my god, this shit is serious. You feel the dread in both the articulate moments and the quiet moments. It's amazing how much you want to see an epic fight, but don't want to see anything happen to anyone either.
Not the Dagadaya.
And I shall die as one of them.
I like
And
the
then,
scene.
you know, there's dumb Ghibli shit.
It's a little tight across the chest.
Again, didn't bother me that much.
What's even that look? Like, what, look for smaller tits? What am I supposed to take away from that?
That is no Orcorn.
At the time, Tolkien fans really lost their shit when some elves were sent to help with the battle, and I honestly could take it or leave it. It's nice
Me
seeing
too.
a small army of men fight for themselves, but it's also nice seeing not every elf is leaving and some stay behind because they believe in their fight. I mean, for God's sake, there was a version where Arwen was there, almost completely contradicting the amazing scene she had before. That would have been a bad move. Out of all the problems this series has, I don't know
Amazing what you can do with editing.
Nothing burger to obsess over. Especially when there's...
Could have picked a better spot.
Because he's sharp. Shut up! The ironic thing is this battle is so well built up and feels so real that when it finally begins, it doesn't feel real enough. What I mean is, every time I start to really get into it, something dumb happens to ruin the flow. For example, constantly interrupting the adrenaline rush with Treebeard literally sleep-talking through his scenes.
We have just agreed.
okay, you could argue that's part of the point. People are dying and they're not doing anything. It's supposed to be frustrating. You get the king not really being a great decision maker and instead talking like he's tweeting during an MMA fight.
So it begins.
Is this it? Is this all you can conjure, Saruman?
Your men are
Don't
dying,
get cocky.
So stop just measuring your army size. I also think they break open the wall way too early. You want to have that be a big oh no.
I love this effect.
It happens 5 minutes in. And 2 of those minutes are focused on Treebeard, so it's more like 3 minutes.
If the wall is breached, Helm's Deep will fall.
3 minutes later.
And man, for a battle they're trying to convince us they could lose and everyone could die. Everyone is too goddamn invincible. Our main characters literally throw themselves into this army of super soldiers. Instant death, not once, not twice, but 3 times.
Yeah,
and never get a
that is
scratch
fair.
on 'em. The only one that bites the dust is Lothlorien's chubbiest elf, which honestly feels like a token death to make up for the fact that none of the main characters are getting hurt. With that said, what, am I supposed to pretend there's not a ton of awesome here too? The sheer size of this battle is so impressive. Mixing CG with practical effects, the awesome
Definitely great
cinematography showing
mixing.
its epic scale and how much was really there. The director having himself take out one of the Uruk.
Whoa, I didn't notice that before.
Now, I'm not blind. There's a ton of really cool stuff. I just wish it wasn't interrupted with,
Toss me. Don't tell the elf.
I honestly thought it was a kind of a touching
"Look what
moment.
they've done to my dwarf." It makes up for it in the end, though, as once again, you do feel the urgency and that this might be their last ride to their doom. This is the only one where they can be a little untouchable because it looks like they're about to die in literally 2 seconds. However, again,
Yeah, there should have been more
exactly
casualties.
An hour and a half later to save the day, so you legit forgot he was even in the movie, despite him being such a major plot point earlier. Now, that's just damn good pacing. Time for some Carl Urban renewal! Also, the Ents, after seeing Saruman destroy their forest, decide to go to war as well. Not sure how their slow language took all night to discuss not going to war, but then 1 syllable can change their minds, but whatever, this fight's amazing.
I love just seeing him go down there.
This battle isn't even 1/5 as long as Helm's Deep, but by God, it shows nothing but the best moments, and it's so goddamn cool.
Especially when they break the dam.
Save a tree. Wipe your ass with an orc.
Meanwhile, Faramir takes Sam and Frodo to Osgiliath, where Sam finally tells him Boromir died trying to take the ring. Why didn't you bring that up to him days earlier?
What are you doing?
But one of the riders tries to take the ring from Frodo, who's so possessed he starts to comply. Sam stops him, though, in one of the more intense scenes. I think most people in this moment were like, oh my god, the faculty kid's gonna kill Ruby!
Can't do this, Sam.
He snaps him out of it, and Sam makes a speech that there are some things worth fighting for.
It's so wrong. By rights, we shouldn't even.
Here comes the cries.
It's only a passing thing. This shadow. Even darkness must pass.
I guess a lot of people at the time connected this speech to being pro the Iraq War, which was going on.
That's a stretch.
The idea was more self-defense than invade where your most wanted enemy isn't, but I don't know. Maybe Tolkien would have liked freedom fries, I'm not sure.
Sauron's wrath will be terrible. His retribution swift. The battle for Middle-earth is about to begin.
At the end of part 2 in a 3-part trilogy. You're making the Hobbit movie sound short. Faramir lets Sam and Frodo go as they partake in some of the lamer writing in the movie.
Frodo wouldn't have got far without Sam. You shouldn't make fun. I was being serious. So was I.
But Gollum has plans.
It didn't
for how
bother
to get his
me.
revenge.
Do it.
We let the first one end a few pages later. We can let this one end a few pages early. And that was The Two Towers. This is when the movies went from good to awesome. Almost all the little problems the previous film had aren't here. The pacing is much better. You feel everyone's emotional struggle. Nobody feels shoehorned in. And the changes from the book, for the most part, seem to make sense when adapting into a movie. Again, there's little issues here and there, but that's to be expected in something this massive based on something else even more massive. For what these people had to bring to the screen, they truly did go above and beyond. In fact, a lot of people were wondering how on Middle-earth they were going to top it. Well, we'll answer that next week as Lord of the Ring month is coming to a close. Oh, don't worry, coming to a close don't mean several goddamn endings. I'm a nostalgia critic, I remember, so you don't have to.
Dummy's a f***ing
Doug loves that MTV clip. And yeah, it's a well done sketch. Definitely wonder how much time it took them to put that together, but it's cool that they can have a sense of humor about it. And I like that. I think the Fellowship review was a little better. It had a few more jokes. There wasn't as many standout comedic moments from Doug here. At least there wasn't any fart jokes, but things that stood out in a way, the Gimli shitting. Yeah, I agree. They made him more silly as the trilogy went on, but it wasn't nearly as bad as what was going to come in Return of the King. And a lot of the moments here, I didn't mind. There were parts here where I thought, okay, Doug, you're being a little too dramatic, but I can understand at certain moments, like the burp, but him falling off the horse, that was honestly kind of cute. And him saying to Aragorn to toss him, I did think that was kind of touching. The decent Gollum CGI, I agree. There's a few, it's like Jurassic Park. There's a couple of moments where it is a little obvious, but it still looks very good because they put so much fucking time and effort into it. I'm a little surprised he skipped over the orcs at the edge of the woods where Merry and Pippin escape, where at first you think they're dead as the Rohan riders come in. But I could get it. He has to choose what to focus on, what not to make it flow. But that's a scene I really like, where some of the orcs want to eat Merry and Pippin. And then one of them gets their head chopped off for trying to grab him, and the leader's like, "Looks like meat's back on the menu, boys!" I do agree that these movies had a bad tendency to kind of spoil things by showing characters on the posters, like with Gandalf, and then later Aragorn for Return of the King, which made his death fake out even more stupid. And, oh yeah, the Howard Shore music. He didn't name drop him, but Howard Shore's score here is fucking incredible. Whether it's Peter Jackson or David Cronenberg, he knows how to create an epic, emotion-ripping music score. His Tom Bombadil reference, that was funny. My grandfather, who I mentioned the last reaction, the Fellowship reaction, is a lifelong Tolkien fan, has said that he thinks Peter Jackson's best decision with the trilogy was to cut out Tom Bombadil, we found just to be completely fucking pointless. And I loved his little jab about the Gimli moments and how, dwarves think Snow White's the most offensive movie regarding their folk. And Saruman inventing bombs, and yeah, the death fake-outs do get a little ridiculous at times. And Faramir, for the most part, I think they handled him well, but yeah, when you take into account the part where they beat the shit for no reason out of Gollum, Faramir's a bit of a cunt in this. But he wasn't completely unsalvaged by Return of the King. The Helm's Deep battle remains just an amazing spectacle. When they blow it up, the sweeping shots, I get lost in it every time I see it. And before I forget, the shot of Gandalf at the very beginning when he's fighting the Balrog, which again, when we come down to it, is a real pointless addition to the story because the Balrog doesn't really tie into anything. But Gandalf coming down with the sword in slow motion with a fire is my favorite shot. It's only 2 seconds, but it's my favorite shot in the whole fucking trilogy. It's the most amazing fight to the death moment I'd ever seen at the time. And yeah, as awesome as I feel the Helm's Deep battle is, I will concede it is ridiculous how none of the main characters really come close to death. Like, they all come out unscathed, and while Legolas is often criticized for having too many perfect moments. It doesn't get quite as bad as in Return of the King, and even then, I feel like it's not worth as much bitching as some folks make of it. Peter Jackson's soldier cameo, that's honestly the first time I realized that he was there, which is cool. It's kind of like it's much more heroic than his fat carrot-eating guy from the Fellowship. The part where Doug talks about people thinking the film might be pro-Iraq war. Okay, that's just a conspiracy theory moment. But overall, I still like. I know, yes, I admit there are some flaws when you really look at it. But Two Towers was probably the Lord of the Rings movie that I rewatched the most when I was younger, and a lot of it's owed to the Helm's Deep, the Rohan shit. It was also like the least bitchy I think Frodo and Sam had been in a bit. And yeah, Andy Serkis, great performance as Gollum. The scenes where he has the split personality are honestly, yeah, pretty award worthy, and it's a shame. It's kind of like when Frank Oz was Yoda and he was not qualified for an Academy Award because he wasn't actually seen physically, which, hard to say, but they're both epic performances in two very different epic trilogies. I wish I had more to say. There wasn't quite as much, again, jokes, but I enjoyed this, and I can't wait to see what happens with Return of the King, because there are many fucking layers to dissect with that one, and I'm real curious to see how much he goes into either the theatrical cut or the extended cut, because personally, even though the theatrical cut is fine, I think the extended cut is the superior version, so we will see, and I will see you again, hopefully soon. Hope you enjoyed this reaction.